That's your one, sir. And that's my. Get a good strong signal for the stream. And just once you tell me when you're ready, I'll tell Sean, then I'll give you the go ahead. What's the time now? 2 minutes, 1 minute. Richard? About ready. Good to go. Right, good evening everybody and welcome to another True Story Tuesday at Coffeeberry Cafe. And we have a live audience tonight. We are streaming live, so for those people watching this evening, welcome to Coffeeberry. We're a small cafe in Pietermaritzburg in South Africa, and we have some distinguished guests that we have every Tuesday night that come and talk to us and tell us their stories, and I will be introducing our speaker tonight shortly. Just a few things. Our speaker will speak for about 40 minutes, and then we'll have a break for 20 minutes. So we'll cut the live feed for 20 minutes, and then we will come back on after that, where we will round off the talk, and we'll have a question and answer session. So please save those for later. And the entire evening should be finished by about 9 p.m. I hope you've all got your food orders in, and the bar side, the kitchen will close shortly, and then the bar side with all the coffees and cakes and so on will remain open until the last person leaves, within reason. Just for those of you parked in the basement, please don't stretch it after 9 o'clock. Otherwise, you might find your car safely secured in there for the night. And then I'll also be, at the interval, announcing our next speaker, which will be happening on the 7th of December. And, of course, you're the first people that'll hear who he or she is, and then you get to book first, and then you don't have any issues about missing out. So, on to our speaker for this evening. And what these True Story Tuesdays are all about is getting local people with an interesting story to come and share it to our community. And then obviously with technology and one of the green shoots of lockdown, we now live stream them as well. So I'd like to read you a brief introduction on our speaker this evening. Mala Naidoo is the author of A Flaming Challenge. And this book is really, really good, and it is on sale this evening. This self-help book challenges our views and beliefs about stress and incurable diseases, including autoimmune conditions. Mala has done what medical science calls insurmountable. Diagnosed with 4 incurable conditions, she has transitioned from the wheelchair and almost bedridden to the dance floor. She is walking, driving, and thriving again. In just 12 weeks, she has done 10 book launches around the country and numerous guest of honor presentations. She has recently given talks in London. She has just returned from her international book launch in Istanbul, Turkey, and Dubai in October this year. Signing a copy of the book to be delivered into the hands of His Highness, the ruler of Dubai, was a massive highlight. The international audience have embraced the scientific research and new perspective on healing in this book with much excitement. A flaming challenge is bringing a new thinking to a field that has left medical science baffled. She has also been invited to present her book at the American University of Barbados in the Caribbean. Mala Naidoo is a biomedical research scientist with an honors degree in biochemistry and a cum laude in master's degree in chemical pathology from the Nelson R. Mandela School of Medicine at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. She is an internationally qualified, and now you're going to help me with exactly what this is, Mala, resonance and repatterning practitioner. I did research that and then I just got a little bit lost up in the moment. Sorry. She has attended international conferences and workshops on wellness in body and mind, including the biology of belief with world-renowned biologist Dr. Bruce Lipton in the USA, Sedona, Arizona. She is passionate about her empowering and interactive stress management wellness workshops. She has spent the last 20 years researching and studying the impact of quantum physics on the human body and mind. She is currently the coordinator of the unique community chest wellness intervention at corporate level. Mala Naidoo is the 2019 recipient of the Panache International Woman of Wonder Award. This award recognizes her for being a progressive thinker, a dynamic leader, a woman that strives to make a difference in society, a woman who makes a formidable impact on others, as well as a woman who continues to inspire and empower. From an entry of 1,000 women, she is one of 30 who received the I Am Woman Award, which honored her for a distinguished contribution to wellness in the community, business excellence, and the high standards of ethical conduct, integrity, and social responsibility. She is married to a community pharmacist, Rajan Naidoo. They have 2 sons, Pav and Tash, who are currently at university pursuing degrees in the medical field. On a global platform, Mala Naidoo is redefining the medical concept of chronic disease while celebrating life as a research scientist and wellness motivational speaker with a passion for neurobiology and quantum physics. Well, I don't think I need much more than that for you to know that you've done a really good thing by coming tonight and tuning in. So put your hands together for Mala Naidoo. You've got your microphone. Oh, it's there.
Thank you so much, Con. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, and to our online audience, thank you so much for joining us. I must tell you, this is an incredibly, incredibly special moment for me this evening. You are all part of a moment that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. My story started 7 years ago at this very restaurant, ladies and gents. Con had no idea when he invited me here. 7 years ago, I was seated with my husband and my little son, and we were enjoying a very early supper, and it was raining. And I remember being extremely happy to be together, the 3 of us, and listening to the rain, and it got louder and louder, and we could sense it was raining really heavy. And we continued enjoying our meal, only to get home and discover that it's a different picture out there. So that supper was the last time that I enjoyed the old me. Ever since that evening, life has been completely different for me. What a transformation. And I'm back here, and I'm standing, and I'm talking to you. So for me, this is so, so special. And thank you all for being part of this moment. I really appreciate that. So there I was, after supper, jumped in the car, and it was raining so heavily. And driving home, we realized, oh my goodness, it's raining a bit too heavy in our area. Going up our driveway, we could barely get the car up. Got to the door and discovered my entire house was standing in water. Every single piece of furniture was in water. The entire house was completely gutted. The insurance company promised us that in 2 weeks they will assist us and sort it out. It took 4 long months to get my home together. It was a real battle. I was, working like 20 hours a day for 4 months. It wasn't clever of me to do something like that. And at the end of it all, I was trying really hard, not to burden Rajan with another financial drama. So I really did my best, but we had to put money in, and the house came out absolutely beautiful by the end of 4 months. But for some reason, something was wrong with me. I just couldn't celebrate a thing. I was so exhausted. The fatigue was unbearable. It felt like that gastric flu fatigue, where you just can't do a single thing. And then there was tingling started. There was this tingling throughout the body. And it turned into a prickly tingling. So I knew something's wrong. And I kept saying, I think I'm just burnt out from working so hard. And eventually Rajan said, no, man, this is not right. Went to the doctor, he examined me, nerve conduction test. He said, no, Mrs. Naidoo, there's nothing wrong with you. Please go home. Came back home, and the symptoms just got worse. The tingling became unbearable. And the weakness, I could do nothing. I could barely carry my head. We were back to hospital. Again, he examined me. Nope, there's nothing wrong. Go back home. 3 more times we were in the hospital in that 3-month period. And eventually Rajan said, no, Mala, I'm just not happy with this. And he convinced my neurologist, please, let's do an MRI on a brain. I really feel something's wrong. And it's not easy. You have to convince the medical aid to do your MRI as well. And eventually we did convince him, and he did the MRI. And ladies and gents, I must say, suddenly there was this huge urgency around my hospital bed. Everybody was rushing around, a drip was put up, so I was on Solumedrol, and doc ordered a whole lot of other tests, and I'm going, what's happening? I'm so excited. It feels like they found out what's wrong with me. Because when I looked at the MRI scans, it was meaningless to me. I've never heard that term before. And this is what he told me. Mrs. Naidoo, I'm afraid you've been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So I went, okay, cool, doc. What do I need to do to fix it? And he says, no, there is no cure. I went, really? So how did it start? He says, no, we have no idea. And he was incredibly sad, and I couldn't comprehend that. I couldn't relate to why he looked so incredibly sad there. And then he says, no, we need to do a lumbar puncture, and I want to run more tests. The lumbar puncture confirmed the diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. Now what this is, it's a demyelination of the nerve cells in my brain and spinal cord. And depending on where the lesions happen, that functionality we lose. And then the blood showed that I had a real high inflammatory markers were all through the roof, and they diagnosed me with a severe form of rheumatoid arthritis. By that stage, my joints were severely inflamed. My ankles, my hip, my wrists were just red. You could see the knuckles were all red. Furthermore, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis. This is where the immune system attacks the thyroid gland. Multiple sclerosis and rheumatoid arthritis are also autoimmune conditions, meaning that my own immune system was attacking my body. If that wasn't enough, then I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia is a fancy word for intense pain, because there's pain throughout the body. There's pain in the muscles, there's pain in the joints. So there I was, just riddled with inflammation and riddled with symptoms. The diagnosis was so serious that I said, there's no way I'm accepting it. I didn't have a second opinion. I had 5 different specialists examine me, and they all came up with the same diagnosis. I mean, 2 of them were professors as well. And there I was, lying on the hospital bed, you know, trying to make sense of all these conditions now being pinned on me. And I remember my son walking in, you know, from school and looking at me there, riddled with symptoms. And I asked him, you know, my boy, how was school today? And he says, Mom, the teacher was talking in my English class. I could see her mouth moving, but I couldn't hear a word she was saying. All I could think about is that my mom is dying on the inside. For a mother to hear something like that, you know, my child now has to be there and watch me go through all this pain. My doctor's telling me there's absolutely nothing they can do. And with 5 days of Solumedrol, I was put on this drip. Solumedrol is a high dose of cortisone, prednisone, for those of you who take it, these little white tablets. The dose with Solumedrol is 200 of those little tablets every day for 5 days. It's a whacker dose. The whole idea is to shut my immune system down, bring it right down so it stops attacking my body. And that was the plan of action coming from the hospital. He says, no, you got to go home now. I start you on methotrexate, which is entry-level disease-modifying drug. And he says, we still have to figure out what on earth we're going to do with you, because we've never had a patient that had so many autoimmune diseases in her system. I mean, he had his peers come through and see me in hospital. I remember another neurologist came through, and I told him, I said, it hurts. What do you mean? How am I going to live with this? He says, no, don't bend your head. There was clearly no answers in the hospital. And I had to leave there knowing that this is a new way to live my life. Covering of the nerve cells in our brain and spinal cord sitting there, so in the human body. And in my case, you know, doc said there was close to 30 lesions sitting in the cerebellum, which is that part of the brain that is responsible for movement, walking, and balance. So, you know, in the hospital, he told me, Mrs. Naidoo, there's a very, very good chance you will never walk again. It's not possible. There's just too many lesions sitting there. Because by that stage, I wasn't moving around on my own at all. The condition is progressively neurodegenerative, which means, you know, it just gets worse. That's what medical science says. You know, by the end of life, patients are in wheelchairs, they're eating through a pipe in here. We just lose functionality. You lose the ability to walk, to talk, to eat, to urinate. I mean, you just slowly, everything just gets cut off. And that's the condition I was diagnosed with. It was started off with relapsing, remitting multiple sclerosis, meaning it gets bad, but it gets better. It gets bad, it gets a bit better. That I started off there, and very, very quickly, I was diagnosed with secondary progressive multiple sclerosis. With secondary progressive, there's no longer any signs of remission. So the symptoms that I had left the hospital with, that I'm going to go through now, I was told will never, ever go away. Now, I make no apology for this slide. It's a very, very busy slide. But that's how my body looked. I was just riddled with symptoms. I mean, starting off with the rheumatoid arthritis, the joints were inflamed and painful all the time. When you look at MS, you can see it's such a range of symptoms, and God said, Mala, we'd like to give you the full package. Every single symptom here I presented with. That's just the one condition. Hashimoto's, these are the symptoms. Fibromyalgia, you can see how many symptoms for every condition. And they were intermingled. I mean, you see depression in all of them, the fatigue in all of them. So here I was, it was amplified in my body. So every symptom, I just had it that much more severe. So I was given medication for every symptom. I looked exactly like this man. That's how I felt. I was just drenched with drugs. Because the symptoms were going on and on. My husband's a pharmacist. You can imagine. He was constantly on the phone with Dr. Sakur. We need another script. We need another script. It's not working. I need another script, please. And he was just writing them because nothing was working for me. And I was getting so angry with my husband. I said, come on, you're just not bringing it home. There must be something you can do to help me. Nothing was working, ladies and gentlemen. I was sad, I was ill, I was in pain. The pain, the numbness, and tingling throughout my body was so persistent. It just refused to go away. And then it feels like, you know, somebody was throwing darts at me, like millions of darts. It was painful, that tingling. The loss of balance and vertigo was so uncomfortable. I could barely get to the bathroom, you know. Sometimes I'd stand up and everything would just spin around me. So I was sitting in that space. After I left the hospital, the headaches started, and the headaches were unbelievable. It felt like somebody was tearing my scalp out, you know, pulling my hair out. It was always worse at night. I used to sleep with an ice pack under my head, 24/7. I needed the ice pack there. Another symptom called the MS hug. I don't know why we use the word hug. It should be a boa constrictor. It's the squeezing of my ribs. It's a real crushing feeling. You know, it's like I'm stuck in the lift doors, if I'd explain to you how painful that is. And that pain just sits there. And I was told it's aggravated by the RA as well. So it's a pain. I could not wear a bra for like 18 months. Nothing could touch my body. Everything hurt. The Lermit sign, the shooting pain, that just continued. The nausea and vomiting was just on another level. I must say, I gave birth to 2 boys, 0 nausea throughout my pregnancy. God was saving it for this time in my life because it arrived with a bang. Movement caused more nausea. So driving to the hospital, I mean, just from here to Mediclinic, Rajan had to stop about 4 times for me to vomit. You know, it was just unbearable. There was a stage, you know, when it was relapsing, remitting, I just felt there was a stage where I think I'm getting a bit better. I remember there was a Sharks game on, I think it was the Curry Cup, and I insisted that Rajan take the boys to the game. He says, no, I can't leave you alone. I said, no, I'm feeling so much better, please. The home's been so sad, I've been so ill, please take our boys out. He says, okay, Mala, I'm not happy, but I'll do it, because I also feel they need some fun in their lives, you know, after what you've been through. So I said, the maid will leave, I'll take all the sleeping pills and stuff, and I'll just stay in bed till you come back. And we agreed. The maid left, and I'm walking towards my bedroom, and I have the sensation of nausea, and I went straight to the bathroom. And I could, you know, I just got there on time, and I started vomiting. And then it continued and continued. And then I was sitting down, I remember, in the bathroom, you know, throwing up, and then I couldn't pick myself up. I wanted a glass of water. I needed to get to the phone, to call it. I could not move at all. And then the nausea started again. So I'd put my hand on the bathroom floor. I'd lie down for a few minutes and then wake up and vomit again. I did this for 4 long hours in the bathroom. When Rajan arrived and found me on the floor, you can imagine, it was just screaming and shouting. They cleaned me up, and I was back in hospital. And that's when we realized, okay, it's secondary progressive MS. And Dr. Sakur told me, Michael, I'm so sorry. You have reached like the worst stage of the condition. The fatigue went on, difficulty swallowing. It is so painful. You know, you start swallowing, the food gets stuck, the muscles are not working, and there's just pain in the chest. So the pain from the swallowing, the MS hug is in there, you're tingling throughout your body. The brain fog, cognitive decline, was so embarrassing for me. People would visit me. I just couldn't follow the conversation. So I learned now, if you know, they were smiling, I'd smile. If somebody laughed, I'd laugh. I couldn't understand what was going on. The weakness in my legs, you know, the clumsiness. I remember my shower. You know, it's got a little lip that you got to step into. I stood there thinking, why on earth would somebody make it that high? It felt like impossible to lift my leg up that much. With the eye going blurry. This is a very common symptom with MS patients, and it happened to me as well. It was my right eye. It's painful. We lose vision completely in it, and it kept coming and going. And I know patients who have lost the eye completely, and I'm thinking, okay, that's driving done for me, the eye goes. This pain in the face, it's called trigeminal neuralgia. It's extreme pain in the face on the right side for me. The tingling even included my tongue. So I don't know if you've experienced drinking something hot and your tongue feels burnt. I was like that 24/7. Imagine trying to eat with your tongue like that. Because of the Solu-Medrol given to me in hospital, my body just reacted to it. I had burning throughout my guts. My gums were bleeding. I mean, Rajan will wake up in the middle of the night to change my pillowcase because it's covered with blood. The tremors started. People would visit me, and I'd be shaking all the time. I felt so embarrassed. I didn't want people to see me. Everything hurt. I was uncomfortable. Difficulty urinating, inflamed joints. I mean, these are some of the symptoms that kept me in a space of hopelessness. All I'd do is curl up in fetal position and cry on that bed because nobody could help me. None of the drugs were working. I felt like a failure. My entire life, I was empowering people on stress management. I was empowering them on the body. And here I was, riddled with symptoms, and told them, sorry, there's absolutely nothing we can do. I must tell you, when the depression set in, I was a character who would say, no, there's no chance I'd be depressed. I've got all these tools, and I'd never go there. It came through a window I never knew was open, It came through with such a vengeance, such a force. It was moodiness and sadness. I just fluctuated between the two. The idea of suicide sounded like such a good solution at that time. And when those thoughts entered my mind, I asked Rajan to please remove every single medication from the bedroom, put it as far in the room, furthest from my room, because I realized I'm in trouble here. That feeling, I love the Lord. I love life. And I'm thinking, where is all that magic gone? I just couldn't access it. It felt the feeling of pain and hurt and misery and discomfort in me. You can't say a prayer even. It felt just impossible. And to sit, to end it all was such a good solution, I must tell you. There was a time when I even parked my car at Midmar Dam on that boat ramp and sat there and wondered, because what am I doing? Why do I need to be alive? It felt like I was such a burden to my family because everything had to be stopped because of me. If I wasn't there, then life will go on for everybody else, Do I really want to live like this? Well, I did put that car in reverse, and I'm here today. When it comes to MS symptoms, ladies and gents, I'm also guilty of this. When people ask us how we are, people lie that they're well, that they're ill. We lie that we're well, because the symptoms fluctuate between severe, very severe, and worst. When we say we're fine, it means the symptoms are sitting on severe. It does get worse. And that's the game we were playing. So ladies and gents, when it comes to multiple sclerosis, most of these symptoms are silent ones. So when people used to visit me, come over to see me, said, but you don't look ill. You can't see the tingling, you can't see the pain, you can't see the nausea, you can't see the headaches, you can't see the MS hug, you can't see the limit sign, you can't see the depression, you can't see the sadness. And they wondered, what's wrong with Mala? So I looked like this Ferrari, but this is how I was feeling. I was crushed, I was hurt, battered and bruised on the inside. And I must tell you, it confused the hell out of me. How on earth could people not see this? I was hurting so much. People would ask me, did you eat? And if I said yes, then suddenly, oh, Mala's fine. No, I'm not. it was just so uncomfortable. Now, here's the thing. My son decided, no, Mom, let's see, what is happening here? What is MS all about? So when we turned to Google and the medical journals, you can imagine my shock and horror when I discovered that the first case of MS entered the medical textbooks in 1868, ladies and gents, over 150 years ago. And I sat up and said, what just happened here? You know, I had opened up my own pharmacy inside my body, and the action with my son released the serotonin that my body needed. And he says, Mom, let's look at why the doctors have missed this, you know, figuring out what's wrong, how they can help you with the MS. So he said, okay, let's look at how medical science looks at the human body. The fact that I got a feeling of joy sitting there with him, I knew that if I could do more of that, what would happen to me? And this is where the investigation started. Now, ladies and gents, when you look at medical science, when you look at the pharmaceutical industry, when they study medicine, they look at what they can see. You know, you're looking at muscles, the skeletal system. Our doctors study medicine from a cadaver. That's what they work on. You know, when it comes to emergency medicine, you cannot beat our doctors. You know, if I have an accident, I want to go straight to emergency room. I know they'll fix me up. They study their medicine to save lives, meaning it's an emergency, and they need to help us. And they do a brilliant job there. But ladies and gents, we cannot apply emergency medicine to chronic care. It just does not work. If they can't see it, we need to look at the body in a different way. I needed radical transformation in terms of the way I approach what I've been diagnosed with. You know, the same level of consciousness that caused the problem cannot solve the problem. There has to be a shift in consciousness. There has to be some change in the way I look at myself, and I did. So I said, okay, if the doctors are looking at the physical body, what else is in there? You know, from my spiritual background, from my studies on quantum physics, we started looking at the human body very, very differently. The human body, according to quantum physics, is sound, okay? Pythagoras said 2,500 years ago, everything in the universe is in a state of vibration. Every flower, every rock, every cell in the human body has its own sound, its own color, and its own vibrational frequency. I mean, even quantum physics says everything in the universe is now becoming sound. String theory agrees with this. The human body is energy. You all agree with this. The energy, we describe our energy as being, you know, we're energized, we're feeling low, we recognize this energy. And what makes energy? It's the mitochondria. ATP is the currency of the human body. So if we could help that process, we can really change that system. The human body is electric, okay? The chemical reactions that happen in the cell, basically the human body is a chemical factory. That's what we are. In our cells, there's chemicals, hundreds of thousands of chemical reactions happening every second. And that's an exchange of electricity happening there. Every cell is about 70 millivolts. We have between 60 to 90 trillion cells in the human body. Now you do the maths with how much of electricity is sitting inside of us. And if you ever wondered why we don't explode, because God has put in step-down transformers, which are called chakras as well. They're nothing more than a step-down transformer. The human body is love. Quantum physics has shown us it is nothing more than love. I don't know if you're aware of this, but the first organ that is formed in the womb is the heart. Love you too, Carmen. We are made out of love. the love is always there. At our core, we are love. We don't have to look for love. We have to look at all the things that is covering our love. So I knew this information from quantum physics. I studied that there are more neurological pathways going from the heart to the brain than the brain to the heart. So it's not the brain that's the boss of the body, it's the heart. When the heart is sad, the brain cannot function. So I knew this information. It was incredibly important because you cannot heal the human body when you are feeling sad, depressed, and down. It is not doing it for you. The human body is made up of vibration, consciousness, divine intelligence. There is something in me that loves me so much that got me up every morning despite those symptoms. You know, I went from feeling, oh God, not another day. You know, when I open my eyes, I can't do this anymore. And today I go, yay, another day, let's do this again. It was such a change when I realized that there is power lying inside of me. I mean, think about it. A single cell from your mother and a single cell from your father got together, you popped in, and it multiplied. 46 chromosomes created this. That's amazing, really. There are more nucleotides in us. There are so many, it can go to the moon 150 times and back, all neatly packaged inside this body. I mean, our heart is pumping over 100,000 times a day through 96,000 kilometers of blood vessels. Ladies and gents, there is something amazing controlling us on the inside, keeping us alive. There is divine intelligence within every cell of my body. So when I looked at this and I said, come on, because our doctors do not study this, doesn't mean we don't have to. And you tell me, how on earth are they going to put all of this into a capsule? Can you see their dilemma? It's not possible. So they said, okay, we leave that to the patient. They can do that. What we can do, put in a capsule, we will. Because our job is emergency medicine. And they're relying on the patient to go home and have a look at who they really are on the inside. And I must tell you, this diagnosis forced me to do that. So instead of seeing myself as this crushed car, this battered and broken person, I started to see myself as somebody vibrant, full of energy, full of love. There's electricity going through me. There's spiritual energy vibrating through every cell of my body. And it's time I say hello to that power. And we did. So after all this information, I realized, you know what? There is a power of choice. You know, the doctor said there's nothing more we can do. But there are things I can control. I can control my thoughts. I can control the food I put in my mouth. And I can control the words coming out of my mouth. You know, things where I remember a time, Rajan on my bed, you know, he wasn't allowed to come near me because the fibromyalgia was shaking, you know? And then I realized he's crying, he was whimpering there. It was so hard for our entire family, you know? My mom was in tears, he was in tears, my children were in tears, and now I had a choice. I found something that could change me from the inside out, and that's what I started focusing on. The quantum physics, everything I had studied showed me if I can just change my thoughts, I would change my biochemistry. You know, when I got happy with my son in the lounge watching FIFA, that's what I did. I focused on something beautiful and I released a neurotransmitter that made me happy. So why can't I do this again? So I started doing this over and over again while lying in bed because I could do nothing else. So I wouldn't do this meditation for just 5 minutes. I would sit hours and hours in there. When I was saying thank you, I started visualizing myself dancing. I could barely get to the bathroom, but I saw myself dancing. And I would dance really hard, you know? I'd be in the dance. I wouldn't see a picture of me dancing. I'd see my hands moving, and I had no idea how to ballroom dance. Just from watching videos and things, I was seeing myself dancing. Yeah. So, and lo and behold, things started changing. You know, I realized the little bit I can change, it's time we start that. And ladies and gents, before I tell you the magic that went into that book and how I put this formula together, I invite you to take a 20-minute break and top up your glasses, and we'll continue soon.
Thank you so much, Mala. That's incredible, amazingly inspiring. I think for some, thank you. Right, so it's time to top your drinks and that, and we'll be back with you at around 8:05. And the live feed there, 8:05, we'll be back. Thanks very much. Right, we're back with you. And I'm going to be telling you, anybody remember in the media for the last about a few weeks ago, there was a story about a fellow lost in the mountains, in the Berg. Yeah, and the story goes that sort of 2 weeks in and everybody had given up hope and his mother thought she'd never see him again. And then he walked into, I think it was the pub at the Vitsi Holiday Resort, and he said to the barman, looking a little bit weather-beaten, said to the barman, give me a beer. And the barman said, no, I won't give you a beer. Here's my phone. Phone your mother and tell her that you're still alive. And which he did, and everybody knew it. So our next speaker, we'll put up the slide just now, is none other than the Barefoot Magic Man. This fellow, Johan, is walking barefoot from Cape Agulhas to Kilimanjaro. I'm not exactly sure where in the journey he's at, but if he doesn't get lost again, he's going to be with us on Tuesday, the 7th of December. In fact, I said to him it would be pretty fitting if he did get lost and then he walked in here on that night. And then we could tell the world that he was actually still alive. So, yeah, he sounds like a great guy. And be sure to just get on that email again, info@coffeeberry.co.za, and book your space. Right, so with no further to do, we look forward to hearing, I'm certainly looking forward to hearing the second part of Mala's story. Thank you.
Thanks, Con. So there I was. We made the decision that we need to do something about this. And my family got together and said, Mom, do you give us permission to let your body be the laboratory? And we are now going to experiment on you. And the first thing they came up with was cryotherapy. So I was dumped in the pool at 4 o'clock in the morning in winter, and I was told to try and manage 4 minutes. It wasn't easy. At 3 minutes, I must say, just standing in the pool, something happened. I felt this kick in the middle of my chest. It's almost like my heart decided, okay, I need to give a boost of, nutrients for these cells because it's going to freeze and die. I knew something happened. I said, Rajan, okay, it's too cold. I don't like this. Let's get out of here. So we were doing crazy stuff. I went on a 4-day water fast to try and figure out, maybe that would help me in some way. After the fast, 4 days, every single one of my joints were normal. The pain in the joints disappeared completely. So we knew we were onto something here. We looked at sound energy, and we researched sound, and we found Indian classical music, the frequency of Indian classical music, to be the closest to a normal, healthy cell. So I started being exposed to Indian classical music 24/7. I realized that these little things that we do, but just by changing my frequency, I was changing my biochemistry on the inside. And one by one, symptoms started to disappear, And by the time I got to Dr. Sakur again, he was like, he's still investigating, It was about, 4 months later, we were battling with the medical aid and the drug he had come up with. So they were still investigating. I remember that visit. I was seated before he arrived in the office, and he's looking around for the wheelchair. No wheelchair, no walker. How'd you come in? I said, no, I walked in. He says, really, what are you doing? So I started telling him the things that we are looking at. And food was a very big one. Because, like Hippocrates, the father of medicine, said, let food be thy medicine, and let medicine be thy food. I mean, this is coming from the medical man himself. So we really investigated the leaky gut in full swing. Now, the leaky gut has no test that one can do to see if your gut's leaking. But by changing my diet, I started letting go of these symptoms one by one. But we were still learning, which foods were good for me and which foods were not. So I was still relapsing, coming out of it, going into hospital. I remember the one time in hospital, Dr. Sakur comes there. You cheated on your diet again, didn't you? Bring that diary here. And he grabbed my diary to see what I had done wrong. He was so much part of the program. He loved that I was getting better. You know, he was so supportive. I must share this with you. The day before I launched my book, you know, I made an appointment to go into his office. And when I got there, I said, Doc, you're not charging me for this consultation because I'm here to share my story with you. And I presented the book to him. I wish I took my video man in there because he just stepped back. And he goes, Mrs. Naidoo, do you know your problem is insurmountable? And then he started chatting, and then he got up again from behind his desk. He comes up to me, I need to shake your hand again. This is unbelievable what you've done. So what we looked at, you know, as I started getting better, we were writing notes all the time. Every single thing I did, I wrote down. I wrote down the conversations I had, the people I spoke to, the food I was eating, the weather conditions. We looked at everything that was influencing my wellness. And we could see a very, very clear pattern, ladies and gents. And we came up with what is called a Take Charge Wellness Formula. For as long as I followed my formula, I stayed symptom-free. So this is quite a miracle for me because the doctor said that remission is impossible in your case, Mala. You will always have these symptoms. So how is it that I'm now doing and moving, walking around and, you know, enjoying myself despite having the conditions? Because I found a way for my body to step out of my body's way and allow the divine intelligence to heal my body. That's what I did. And that's what the Take Charge Wellness Formula does. What this says is that wellness equals love. The L is love. Love is healing the heart. You know, when we're changing the way we feel, when we're forgiving, we're letting go of all the hurt, the sadness, the bitterness, the past, the regrets. I had to let go of all of that. I had to fall in love with me. I think for the first time ever, actually. You know, self-respect. It was all about self-respect. I respected myself enough to eat the right foods. You know, I respected myself to do the right things. And then I felt, I'm now loving me again. And when I started doing that, I gave permission for those around me to start treating me different. And I loved that. Wellness equals love plus delta F. Delta F is a change in food. The food has to change. Okay, we become the food we eat. We are a chemical factory, like I said. So when we eat the food, the body breaks it down all the way through and rebuilds, use the same building blocks to build us. So we really do become the food we eat. So really think about the food on your plate if that's what you want to become. Changing the food was massive for me. Changing thought. We all, you know, the boys, Rajan and I, we split this formula up. Each one was working on it. My youngest son, Tashane, was the one with thoughts. You know, we figured out if all I could do was keep, you know, people say, be positive, man, be positive. I wanted the science to be positive. Now, that's quite a long explanation. It's in the book. You know, I don't have time to do that here now. But I realized that an emotion starts with our thoughts first. We have a negative thoughts. I think sad things. I feel sad in my body. And if I can change that, just change the way I was thinking. You see, there's something very important. The human brain doesn't know the difference between what is imagined and what is real. So if you had a fight 2 weeks ago with somebody and you're describing that fight today, your body will react as if you're having the fight right now. So if it can be so destructive, surely it can be as constructive. So I said, okay, instead of having sad thoughts in my head, let's shift that to happy thoughts, you know? So I could show when I'm in a happy space, my thoughts are happy. My body shifts from a fight, flight, freeze state to the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the healing, digest, and rest state. And so I was very, very careful about the thoughts, my thoughts, and my words. You know, I'd catch myself. I still, you know, mess up, but I'm very conscious of it. So becoming conscious of what we're thinking, what we're saying, really made a huge difference in my world. Activity A is the activity. There has to be movement. Human beings are born to move. When we move, that's how the reactions take place in our body. It needs that movement for us to be whole. Rajan's job was sorting out activity. And the research he had done, he discovered that neuroplasticity happens when one dances. Because it's an exciting exercise, you're feeling happy, you're learning new steps, you're forcing the brain to work. And he knew how much I loved to dance. So there I was, visualizing in bed, in that fetal position, that I was dancing. And he found Ben Brandon's School of Dancing. He says, Mala, we're going dancing. I said, Rajan, you hate to dance. He said, it's okay, let's try. So for the first few weeks, I'd be standing on his foot because I'd fall down if I stand on my own, and it moved me. I remember the first lesson, we turned once, and that was it. The nausea set in. And we went flying to our seat. And the instructor came rushing. He thought we were fighting, on our first lesson. And we explained to him. So he re-choreographed the moves so that I could manage the dancing. And Rajan persisted. It doesn't matter how ill I was. He would take me there. Even if we sat and watched the others dance, he wanted me there. And ladies and gents, the shift was incredible. I started looking forward to it. The nausea disappeared. I started to move. And I could feel the day after dancing, I could do more things than I did for the rest of the week, So something was happening there with the movement. So the doctor wanted to know, how on earth, Mala, can you be walking with 30 lesions sitting in your cerebellum? I look at the MRI scans, it's still there. It's not lit up. So the lesions are not active. What is happening? So the only explanation is that my body, via the visualizations, I taught my body that you can actually make new cells. It's a good thing. I don't need to be in this space because of my diagnosis. So that divine intelligence sitting in me knew that every cell of my body has the genetic code for a normal myelin cell. So it remyelined, it made new nerve cells, and therefore I'm walking. So obviously there's a new neural pathway created from my brain all the way down to my legs. And that applies to every single symptom I was going through. My body just corrected it. So we discovered, in order to keep us focused on the food, thoughts, the activity, I needed to know why I'm doing it, and I needed to persist. So that's the D and M here. It's the discipline and motivation, the what and the why. Ladies and gents, if you don't fully understand why you should avoid gluten, for example, you're going to cheat on it all the time. If you don't understand exactly how we are hurting ourselves when we eat the wrong foods, when we're diagnosed with a chronic disease, then we just won't persist with it. So it was very, very important for me to get a clear understanding, to satisfy my mind that this is the right thing to do. So I've put all of this research in the book because I need you to know that why you're doing it, so you hold that energy. And very, very important, I took out the triggers. Now, what's the point if I'm putting water on those flames and, a petrol bomb at the same time? It really doesn't add up. And that's what people do, and they tell me your formula doesn't work. I said, it works. I've tried it, I've tweaked it, I've avoided things. You got to do it as it is. It's fabulous, and it comes through. Now, the triggers are the food for me. It's different for each one. For me, it was eating the wrong foods. It's the heat. It's loud sounds, loud flashing lights. It's trauma on the outside, the stress. So I'm very, very fussy with the way we manage trauma on the outside. And I don't win every time. I do, get a bit of symptoms, but then it goes away very quickly because we figured out what to do. With secondary progressive MS, I was symptom-free for about a year before I wrote the book. But after lockdown 5 happened, my system wasn't ready for this living in a world like that, I took a lot of strain there with family trauma we had. So the system got a bit wobbly in a big way, actually. But we managed to bring it back. We managed to bring the homeostasis back into the body without the Solu-Med. And for me, that was a big win. But I also learned to be a lot more respectful of the drama on the outside. You know, not to take things personally. We can't change other people. We can't change how people respond. But I can change how I respond to their words and their action. And this is a big lesson for me now. And this is all part of getting well. Because as soon as I feel sad, my system drops and I'm taking 10 steps backwards. That's a trigger. I don't have the luxury of having a pity party. It's the only party I'm not allowed to attend. It does not work in my body. You know, I have to be really vigilant to keeping myself away from the drama. Our business was looted this year. It was gutted completely. We lost every single thing. Our pharmacy, even the air cons were ripped off. Our DB box was ripped off. Every single thing was taken away from us. And we had to now come together and realize, okay, how best to not let this, you know, affect me. And it was the most difficult thing I had to encounter since the diagnosis, because there I was with such trauma, and I knew I couldn't help my partner. He's got to do this one alone. And we did everything together. And he's amazing. He did it. But it was really challenging for me to know. And I said, okay, Mala, the one thing you can contribute here is keep yourself well. Let's not add to that drama. You know, and I had to say no, because people were calling me, wanting me there, and I said, no, my body won't handle seeing that. I can't do that to myself. So I say no to a lot of things and say yes to me for the first time in my life. You know, my son, there was a time when I was really feeling sad, out there, knocked out. I remember lying on the carpet, you know, feeling so sorry for myself, and he says, Mom, you're so lucky you have MS. And I looked at him and I said, really? You know, that hurt me to hear him say that. I said, why would you say that? He says, think about it, Mom. For the first time, I think, you got to put yourself first. And that was really incredible. And that's the truth of it. So ladies and gents, just changing simple things, you know, changing the basic needs. The human being needs food, water, air, and self-love to survive and thrive. And that's what I did. These are things within our control. I took back the responsibility away from the medical team. I said, no, there's something else we can do here. And when I changed, you know, the way I was looking at things, the things I looked at changed. My choices now afford me functionality and quality of life. I'm loving my life. You know, I wake up in the morning, step out, I say, okay, the legs are working today. I go out, you know, I do my routine, and then I'm outside, I'm jumping around, I'm celebrating life. You can ask Raj, and the music is blasted in our yard. I have a party every day. I'm celebrating. Because with a diagnosis like this, there's no reason to be sad. It doesn't matter what's happening out there. You know, God decided, no, Mala, I'm giving you life today. You know, that's my gift from him. How I live my life is my gift to him. And he's given me the tools. And I must tell you, when meditation became my medication, that's when healing began. You know, when we meditate, we listen to the magic within. And it's something we can all do. It is free. It is something that helped me shift my thoughts and keep the homeostasis well. I've detailed this formula in the book. Part 2 is all about the formula to just guide you and help you where to start. I must say, writing the book was incredibly cathartic for me as well, to see how, you know, the movement happened. But for me, the appreciation was my support team. I have an incredible support team. But I must tell you, ladies and gents, I also went out there and I looked for people that I value, you know, and I'm surrounded by people that really lift me up. I mean, Judy's sitting here. We have satsang for like an hour when she calls me, because all we do is celebrate how awesome it is to be alive. And that's what I'm doing every day. We're celebrating the miracle that's happening within us every single day. I mean, you sitting here listening to me, every second your body is making millions of cells while millions are dying it's getting replaced. You know, if I just do that, another million cells have been made in your body. That's how miraculous we are. So if nothing else, we don't have to worry about anything out there on the outside. Drama will happen. Drama will happen at work, in the family life, at school, you know. It's always there. That's how we grow as human beings. We need challenges. But the way I think, the way I feel, and what I eat is 100% my choice. And when I realized that I'm in charge of how I feel, magic began. Ladies and gentlemen, you see, when Dr. Sakur told me I have an incurable condition, what he actually meant is, Mala, you need to go in to make it curable. Thank you so much.
Right, thank you, Mala. Do we have any questions for Mala? Mala, I'll fire off with a question. First off, I want to just share a little bit about what Mala's saying about diet. Hey, 1 year ago I was diagnosed with myeloma, which is cancer of the bone marrow. And so my good wife had been on about diet and healthy living for quite a while. And it was just over the top of my head. And then I thought, wait, whoa. And it was, by the way, it was like caught early and it was all pretty good. So I was lucky. And I thought, let me just at least go for diet. And I actually adopted a thing, and Mala and I resonated with this when she came to see me, because I didn't know her story at all. And I'd recently been diagnosed, and I told her, and I said I'd resolve to positivity, activity, faith, and diet. And diet, a year down the line, I can say I'm 10 kgs lighter than what I was. I've never felt better, but simply going plant-based and dropping gluten and dairy. Like no complicated things and how many grams of this and how many grams of that, just going that way. I will eat, occasionally I'll eat venison that I know exactly where it's come from and untouched by human hands. But if you start researching a bit, you'll be horrified to know the food on your plate, where it comes from. And you just got to be conscientious of that. So it really, really worked for me. And Mala, you spoke of diet. What worked for you?
Okay. The diet I follow is vegan, gluten-free, nightshade-free, sugar-free, and alcohol-free. So what do I eat? My meals are delicious. My next book is a cookbook. I'm putting it together with quite a bit of recipes. We're going to do a 21-day challenge. And yeah, so I invite you to really start exploring. For now, just eat fruit and water. If you want to start a cleanse, I invite you to just go on fruit and water and allow your body a chance to heal itself. Our body spends so much of time digesting our food. You know, we eat way too much. Today, intermittent fasting is quite a hit. People are enjoying that. So you're eating for just an 8-hour period. I must say, I didn't have to do that. All I had to do was avoid the things that were hurting my body. And that's all the gluten, the junk food, the nightshades for me. And yeah.
Yeah, incredible. And the flip side of my story was, so they check my bloods every 2 months. And this latest blood test, the doc phoned me and he said, hey, what you been doing? It's just like, these whatever levels, and it's all a bit above my head. He said it's like the best ever. So yeah, there's definitely a lot to be said for diet, very much so. Anybody else? Any questions? Don't be shy.
Con, before we take the question, I just want to add regarding diet. When I investigated MS and discovered that, because it was ridiculous that my own immune system was attacking me. It didn't make sense. This divine intelligence within me wants me to live, not to die. And I said, I must be really irritating my immune system. And when we look at the leaky gut, there are molecules that were escaping the gut and going into my bloodstream. My immune system, thinking it's attacking these products, was attacking my brain. It is called molecular mimicry. It happened, we discovered it with milk. It's a protein called butyrophin that is found in milk. It has the same DNA code as the myelin sheet. So my immune cells, thinking it's getting rid of all the milk particles in the wrong place was attacking my myelin cells. So food really did make a big difference in my life. Yeah.
Hi, hi, Mala. Sorry, I've been listening to all the story that you've been sharing. Thank you for sharing to us. I just want to ask you, what kept you going, especially when you were in hospital? What was giving you strength inside you? What were you thinking? What were you saying?
Thank you. I knew there's power inside of me. I knew I would get better. So when Dr. Sakur was saying, there's nothing we can do, you know, inside me, it's as if God gave me all the knowledge and then whacked me with the condition. Because I studied the human body from, you know, completing my master's at med school and then going into quantum physics. I had so many stories of people, you know, like the Miracle Man and things, where they were very ill and they got better. So he had me training, you know, on how the human body works. And there I was, I now had to walk my talk. You know, I was constantly telling other people how to be positive and how to come out of their space. And for the first time in my life, I had an experience of what pain feels like, what a headache feels like. You know, I was counseling people just from textbook knowledge. And now I do it from personal experience. I can tell you that the body has the intelligence to fix everything. We just have to get out of its way.
Thank you. Is there another question?
Experience is your greatest. No. Experience is your greatest.
Experience is my greatest teacher. I agree. I agree.
And what you told us now is all of us ladies don't have to cook it.
Just eat fruit.
Yeah, and grapes, even mint.
Right. Any more questions there? Mr. Hackland, you'd have to take the mic.
No, it's not actually a question. I just wanted to ask you, is fruit not very high in sugar?
When you're having just fruit on its own, it's exactly in the form that the body needs. You see, when we combine fruit with the carbs, well, actually the junk fruit in there, the body, it has to process each one. So the sugar sits there, and then you feel the diabetics, the sugar is too much in the body. It doesn't work that way if you're only on your fruit. Fruit, nuts, and water is a fabulous way for the body to get all the energy it needs, to get enough glucose to sustain you. It doesn't matter what your job is.
Yeah, that's what my wife says to me. She said, you can eat that banana, but you must eat a handful of nuts at the same time. Because I'm not in on the technical stuff, but they work well together.
I think this lady here.
Mala, can you just explain a bit more about leaky gut? Just give us a bit more insight on leaky gut.
Sure.
Thanks.
Now, the gut starts at the mouth and ends at the other end. And it's a pipe within the human body. That's our gut. So it's the outside on the inside. It keeps the outside there, and the body decides once it's digested the food, then it's safe to go out. Okay. The gut is full of an amazing plethora of microorganisms. All right. That's our flora that we need to keep us well. We need our gut flora. So sitting in there, because of the foods we eat and the stresses we go through, we are depleting our microbiota. All right. And that is causing drama on the inside. Then there's a product called gliadin. Gliadin opens up the cells to allow the food to pass through when it's ready to be digested. Now, foods like gluten produce too much of it. So the body now opens up the cells. You know, this walls open up to allow the food particles through before they've been digested properly. It's not just allowing the food particles through now. So there's bacteria and all sorts of other things escaping when it shouldn't. Because that pipe is just one cell thick. That's all. And it has to be in there and decide, okay, what nutrients go out and what nutrients stay in. So now, the medication we have, all the anti-inflammatories, all this destroys the lining of the gut. It destroys the bacteria sitting in there. Stress is the big one as well. So this is new science. It's, people are starting to heal. They're starting to feel better. All chronic diseases are starting to feel better when they change their diet to help the gut. Okay, healing really starts in the gut. That's where serotonin is made. The immune system is also housed in the gut. So it made such logical sense to go to the gut first to start the healing process.
Any more questions?
Thanks, Carmen.
Right. First of all, it's just absolutely amazing to see a turnout like this in a restaurant that's buzzing. And it wouldn't be possible without you people. And just the last 600 days, I think I heard the other day, since the pandemic broke out. Must be 602 days by now. But it's been a hell of a roller coaster ride. And I need to say some thank yous. And so during that time, this mothership, as I call it, was sinking and sinking badly. But we had fantastic support from the community, but they all came out in force with our latest concept up the road at Coffee Box. And they found out that drive-through coffee was actually quite conducive to the current pandemic, and there was a very convenient way and a safe way to get your coffee. So miraculously, Coffee Box actually kept the mothership, as I fondly call her, Coffeeberry, alive during this last time. Coffeeberry has now come back thanks to the amazing support from the community. So I just want to thank you, the community, from both sides, Coffee Box and Coffeeberry. Thank you so much for your support. There is now, based on that, from a Coffeeberry that was dying a year ago, or just over, there is a new Coffeeberry happening at the Avenues Centre in Hilton. We have a temporary offering up and running there at the moment, just offering coffee and light snacks. But then from, looks like the 1st of March next year, there'll be a fully fledged Coffeeberry up there. And thanks to all of you for your support to make these things possible. But what really gives me encouragement is that it means more job creation. And I just want to thank my awesome team that's helped in this journey to bring this mothership back up and floating healthily again. So thanks to my team. Thank you very much. And then I'd like to thank Sean and Richard, who put on this thing. I used to die 1,000 deaths before with the sound coming up and the audio-visual work in that, but these guys come to the party, they do the live streaming, they do this. If you ever need anybody to do your functions, your live streaming, sound equipment or whatever, Sean and Richard at Sound Mechanics are the guys to talk to, so thanks very much, guys. And then, Mala Naidoo, incredible. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming to share your story. That's what these evenings are about. Remember, the next one is the Barefoot Magic Man. He actually sent me a voice note just now, but technical reasons we can't play it. But he's got a very, very interesting story. And he's walking barefoot from Cape Agulhas to Kilimanjaro as his preparation to become the first person to walk from the North Pole to the South Pole without any kind of assistance, I suppose, motorized assistance or anything. So this is an interesting guy. You don't want to miss his story. And Mala, I'd like to really say thank you so much for coming out this evening. Mala still has copies of a book available, and feel free to engage with her here. And the bar is still open for coffees if you'd like. And thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Con. I must say the book makes a lovely Christmas gift. It's a gift of hope. I've brought quite a few here, and you're welcome to get a signed copy from me. And yeah, this year, you're going to give a gift of hope. I think the book should be into every household. The schools are trying to get it in because they're loving the contents in there. So everybody should have this understanding of the human body before they decide to start cooking their own food. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you.